We'd like to announce a special final concert to our world tour. We'll be playing a concert for the masses here at the
Soul of Detroit podcast.
This will be a very big occasion for us, not only being the largest, but also the most prestigious concert we've ever played. We wanted to document that, we wanted to put it onto
a podcast
and everything. And this is it's a high point in our career now. We get bigger and bigger with every
episode.
U.S. interrogative question right in my face. It's gone.
What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Al?
Hey kids, it's your old pal ML Elric, ready as ever with this week's edition of the ML Soul of Detroit podcast. This is, as you may have ascertained from our slickly produced intro, our 101st episode. And so we wanted to tie ourselves to another internationally famous and beloved group that has its own internal dynamics, Depeche Mode, and that was a teaser for their concert documentary 101 to mark our 101st anniversary. And this episode is not brought to you by Riff, where they have
never heard of them.
Some stupid people.
Don't say that. They're very successful.
They're very successful. Yes,
be nice
by saying the P word on a regular basis. Is that all it takes? Because we've been doing it all wrong. We've been trying to bring well thought out and cleverly crafted commentary.
We still haven't done that.
But we're trying. I said we're trying. That's the difference.
Not hard enough. At least not me. By the way, that was a hit, Mark.
What?
Mike gave you permission to use an actual hit from a new wave group?
He chose it.
I don't understand. I'm confused. People have actually heard that song before, so that threw me.
Yeah, we were going to do, what was your group from Austin, the Flaming Turds? You used to go to all their shows.
Scratch Acid.
Scratch Acid.
We don't need to go back down there. We're moving forward here. 101 shows?
Yeah.
Well, 100 too many.
Wow.
Sean's off to an early start criticizing the show that he's on.
Oh, because I'm going to disappear for about 30 minutes. And
then
I'll be back.
What do we got today? Set the table.
This reminds me of how Letterman used to denigrate his own show, but he was actually funny. Sean's sort of like Letterman, but not funny.
No, I'm not funny at all.
And has no idea what's going on with the weather.
But he didn't denigrate just the show. He denigrated the network. So I love this show. It's, so draw your own parallel.
I think what you mean to say is you hate this show, but you love the network.
No, I think it's the reverse is for you, though, right?
What? No, I love
you
everybody.
love yourself in the show, but nobody else.
I love it. You know who I really I don't want to say love because I don't want to be overly familiar, but I really like Tracy Martin, who's our guest here, and she's right now frantically looking for the fire alarm to try and end this.
No, I'm not.
But there's no escape. She is an attorney, a political pro, and knows her way around Detroit politics. So actually, this foolishness just feels like kindergarten to her because she's been in the real octagon battling for truth, justice, and various candidates.
That is true. That is true. I'm congratulations on your 101st episode. That's a real mile marker. That's fantastic. And thank you for having me on the show. You were on our show a couple of weeks back. And
Politico Coffee. And I brought tea to a coffee show. So that tells you what's wrong with me.
Well, that's because we were spilling a tea on local politics. And I really enjoyed our back and forth. I was throwing some questions at you and you were just ML on the spot.
That was fun. And Robin.
Attorney Robin McCoy, my co-host. And it's a weekly show. We call it a podcast, but it's really a straight up interview show. And, we do it through Zoom on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and
so you guys are way ahead of us.
I don't know about that, but I'm glad to be here today.
Well, Sean sent me a telegram about YouTube. He says, I think this new technology is catching stop. We should see if we can get on YouTube stop. And then it said something like, I like Seabiscuit's chances in the Preakness stop.
Are you sensing a pattern here, Sheila?
And so
I'm sensing something.
I said, we're working on it. But I'll tell you who is way ahead on technology. That's our friends at Roy O'Brien Ford. They know everything from the Bronco to the E-Mustang. If you're looking for a new ride for service, repairs, or maybe just an oil change or a new set of tires, Roy O'Brien Ford is there. They've been there for 75 years at the corner of 9 Mile and Mac. Among their satisfied customers are my mom, and I will tell you, based on the reception to my Mother's Day gift, she's very difficult to please. I thought it was a fantastic pair of socks. She felt a little cheated. But they cost me more than $10. So that's a pretty fancy pair of socks.
Merino wool.
Merino polyester. They call it
cashmere, huh?
No, they call it Dan Merino wool. It's
Well, let me ask you this: when's the last time you spent $10?
Mother's Day, because with the tax it put it right over $10.
Okay.
So,
I meant before Mother's Day. I mean, it's probably been a while since you spent that much money.
Mother's Day 2020 was the last time I
Okay.
spent.
Okay.
But no, actually, I got her a couple of flats of flowers up at Randazzo's there off of Outer Drive, where they had some really cool stuff because everybody else was sold out, but they still had a pretty nice
Really? At Randazzo's?
Yep, up there by City Airport. So I think when you're right next to a cemetery, it makes it tough to keep a lot of flowers on hand. But
Yeah.
the plant selection was outstanding.
Okay, cool. I'll have to make a note of that. I'm a bit of a gardener myself, so.
Oh yeah, it's right on the back. They have a really good outdoor nursery there. So that saved me. But if you want to buy your mom a car, maybe I guess Sean, that's what he's thinking about because he's like, I don't know, $10,000, $10. It's all the same to me. I'm a big shooter. Roy O'Brien's the place to go.
But that's true. Roy O'Brien is the place to go.
There you go. Now we agree on something. And if we can agree, then I think it's safe to say that you'll be very pleased. Go to royobrien.com. That's ROYOBRIEN.com. And you can call him too at 888-566-5851. 888-566-5851. Let them know that ML sent you. And if you're more comfortable, just send them a telegram. Just said, ML sent me. Stop. I will be there soon. Stop. What was your website again? Stop. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have the internet. I'm sending a telegram. Stop.
That's twice, Mark.
I know. Same joke twice.
That's twice.
It worked so well the first time.
It did.
Stop.
It did. It's like me saying, is it Mike or is it ML?
Stop.
Am I going to be real or pretentious today? It's
Stop.
like me saying that's the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
We just were hoping you're going to bring us some Slim Jims and sherbet like you do for the boys. Or was it sorbet and beef jerky? I can't remember what it was.
What flavors?
Whatever flavor you'd like.
Milk duds, milk dud smoothie, perhaps.
They've got these different flavors of Slim Jims and stuff now. Beef jerky. I like teriyaki myself.
Sean never brings
A
us
little
anything.
salt. I had teriyaki last night. What's that?
You never bring us anything.
Really? I didn't bring you
Sunshine.
hoagies.
Everybody wants to know.
From Izzy's Hoagie Shop.
right.
Oh, that's
right.
true. You're right. I take back anything bad I've ever said about you.
Okay.
That
And,
is
and
one of the
you
best
didn't ask
places.
for them. I just brought
No,
them
you're right.
and
Thank
fed
you. You're very kind.
And then I wiped the corners of your mouth, dripping the cheese down, right?
It was a little erotic, yeah.
Well, I was just trying to... erotic.
Wow.
Where are we? What's going on?
Yeah.
already?
We have a distinguished guest today.
let's
and
talk some
here
politics,
we are talking about
yeah.
hoagies. And come on.
Yeah, so we'll set the record straight with Tracy Martin, and credit where it's due. It was on this very network on Friday that Charlie LaDuff broke the news that our police chief was about to no longer be our police chief, and subsequent reporting by Charlie and others revealed that he is expected to run for governor as a Republican. So we want to have Tracy on to talk a little bit about the chief's chances, maybe take a look back at his career, what sort of how he'll be remembered, and just this notion of, I think there's a feeling of, oh, I've got a black Republican, I'm going to win. Well, for those of us who have a little bit of gray in the temples, do you remember Bill Lucas, a black Republican sheriff who ran for governor, did not do real good?
When was that? I do not remember that. When was that, Tracy?
I think he ran against Ed
that was-
McNamara, right?
Yeah, that was way back when, I think in the 80s. And yeah, William Lucas. But that's an interesting point that you raised, because I don't think that you can really compare James Craig with William Lucas. I mean, yes, Bill Lucas was very distinguished. He had a lot of support, but didn't quite have the same charisma as James Craig. You know, they call him Hollywood Craig. And he picked up that moniker from his time out at LAPD. You know, he spent 30 years out there, and then he went to Portland, and then he went to Cincinnati, and then he came back here to his hometown of Detroit, and, you know, is finishing out an 8-year illustrious career as the city's top cop. But I think that, you know, when it comes to Charlie LaDuff's story, I think what really shocked a lot of people was the fact that, you know, Craig was coming out of the Republican closet, so to speak. But he had been signaling before that he was very conservative, don't you think? And that he had these Republican leanings.
Yeah, when he's telling everybody in Detroit they should get a gun, I think that was something that you probably wouldn't see on MSNBC or CNN.
Oh, no, definitely not.
He was a regular on the Fox News shows, and he was a regular on Fox News shows, and he did other networks too. So I don't want to say that he was cherry picking, but he was not afraid to appear on Fox News at a time when, just last summer, when the city was a cauldron. It hadn't boiled over like Wisconsin and Portland and Minnesota. But if you are someone in Detroit who believes that your police department is overly aggressive, is not interested in social justice, and your chief says, no, we're cool, and then you see him on Fox News right after that, you're kind of thinking, I don't think we're cool, because Fox News was fanning a lot of flames in this country last summer.
Were you guys surprised at how many people were surprised that he said, I'm a Republican?
Yeah, I know I was. I
Really?
mean, I'm an independent myself, but I've been a Democrat, I've been a Republican, and I'm just, you know, satisfied with being an independent. But I was just shocked at how people were recoiling, you know, particularly in Detroit, that their police chief has come out as a Republican. And as you said, Emma, I mean, he's been on Tucker Carlson's show. I just saw him on Judge Jeanine Pirro's show.
That doesn't,
over the
to me,
weekend.
that doesn't make you automatic. I mean, yes, we know.
No,
that
but it
that's
was
where
what he
leans,
was
but
talking about.
I think that's
though.
a testament for him. You're right. But I think that's a testament for him that a lot of people didn't think about a political affiliation, at least until recently, maybe.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, ML, you pointed out that he's gone on the Fox News channel, but it never really stuck to him in terms of a negative, at least for Detroiters, I think. So that's why him possibly challenging Gretchen Whitmer in 2022 is going to be a fascinating political race. I do think that he is going to garner much support from the Republican Party. I mean, he's already reached out to Doug Ducey, who's the governor of Arizona and who is the head of the Republican Governors Association. He's had talks with the head of the Michigan Republican Party, Ron Weiser. I find this interesting, though, because, you know, there's been some speculation about who would jump into this gubernatorial race. And, you know, just I think a week back or so, you heard Ronna McDaniel's name mentioned, right?
Yeah.
But she hasn't committed. And then there was some speculation about John James. He formed this new political action committee, Mission First, People Always. You know, he ran a heck of a race just last year, came
Almost
within
won.
2 percentage points of beating a sitting senator, Gary Peters. But I say all this to say that I don't think that there are, well, he's the only A-lister, okay? McDaniel hasn't committed. We don't know what John James is doing. Everybody else who's been mentioned, they're all B-listers, so to speak. So I think the Republican Party is actually going to coalesce around James Craig.
Great pick.
I think it's a great pick. He's got a lot of crossover appeal. And
my big question mark is how politically charismatic is he? Because, you know, I just see him as the police chief and I see him do interviews. But watching that press conference yesterday, it's like, oh, he knows what to answer and what not to answer. He's very charismatic when it comes to those things. Did you guys get that kind of feeling from him?
He's very savvy. Yes,
Yeah.
he's politically savvy. And if you watched him recently on Judge Jeanine Pirro's show, I thought it was kind of funny to me because he, you know, he tried to raise an issue about the Oscars. And I think he was going down this road about the Oscars being woke. And she cut him off because she wanted him to stick to like policing. And so, we're living in this era of what Black Lives Matter and defund the police. And, that's an issue that doesn't resonate with all Black people. And so, there's question about, well, how much support would James Craig really pick up from Detroit? And is Detroit really still a factor when it comes to a gubernatorial race? I mean, Gretchen Whitmer, she did
not
win.
Perform well there. No.
Yeah.
Third, right? I think she was third,
Well, she did. I think Sri Tanadar actually won in 2018 the Detroit vote.
You're talking about in the primary.
Yeah.
Yes, we're talking about in the primary, right? Of course, it was between Bill Schuette and Gretchen Whitmer all day long, and she beat him by, I think it was about 9 percentage points, almost 10 percentage points. So I just say all this to say that, Detroit is still important when it comes to a gubernatorial race, but could James Craig win without Detroit? Oh, I think so.
So Craig is interesting, and while I say I'm not surprised that he's declared as a Republican, it wasn't that long ago when Gretchen Whitmer was looking for a running mate, and there were people who were advising her, saying, we think Benny Napoleon would be great because they really wanted to shore up her Detroit, her southeastern Michigan credentials. They wanted somebody who had some of their own cachet. And there were some other names being thrown around, Warren Evans, probably not interested in leaving Wayne County Executive, probably doesn't want to be somebody's second banana. I mean, Warren he's like, I'm a boss, I'm not a deputy. And I remember talking to people and saying, well, has anybody thought about James Craig? Because you're talking about, you have a fairly liberal Democrat from the central part of the state. You're looking for a high profile Democrat from southeastern Michigan, preferably someone who doesn't look like Gretchen Whitmer because she wants to try and balance out the ticket. You're looking for male, female. It's kind of like TV news anchors,
Right.
You have the white woman and the black guy, or you have the black guy and the white woman, and
racial balancing so important in southeastern Michigan. Right?
Yeah, I mean everybody's trying to create this perfect setup. And I said, well, what about Craig? So all of which is just to say that about 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been surprised to see him running on a Democratic ticket, but I think he's decided this is his window. And unlike Schuette, who's about as charismatic as flat water.
You know what? Now I've got to jump in on this one because I've met Bill Schuette.
I mean, fizzy water that somebody shook up. And
listen,
so at one time he had a little.
I met Bill Schuette, and he's can actually be quite charming in person, but as a candidate, I agree with you. He just didn't resonate. And, when that loss really hurt him, it really was a gut punch for him because he thought he was going to prevail. But what I find interesting is, at that newser, that press conference yesterday, someone asked Mayor Duggan, who was he going to support, going into 2022. And he says, I'm throwing my support behind Gretchen Whitmer. But do you remember when Gretchen was running? There was talk that he was actually trying to recruit Gary Peters to run for governor, that he, didn't think that she could do it, that she could get across that finish line. So, what a difference a few years makes.
Yeah, and I don't know how much stock to put in that Duggan was not enraptured with Whitmer talk from 2018. But once she was elected, remember, his son became, I think, the head of her transition team. So, I mean, the Duggans got on board pretty strong and certainly provided some talent to her administration. Dr. Joni Caldoun came from Detroit, and I don't know that Duggan would have, been that happy if she picked somebody off of his staff, if they didn't have some sort of relationship.
Right.
But yeah, Craig is going to be very interesting. So I didn't realize the Hollywood nickname came back from his LA days. I assumed it came from his availability on a regular basis to the media here.
It's both.
And people complained about that. They used it to denigrate him. And I remember seeing him one time when he was out on the street, and he was wearing some blue suede shoes. And I thought, I have never seen a Detroit police chief wear some blue suede shoes. So he had a flair for fashion in addition to a certain avuncular nature. But I never criticize any politician or any public official who likes to appear before a camera or a microphone or reporters, because while they may have their own reasons for doing that, to good reporters who know what their job is, you can be invited to a press conference to cut a ribbon and you can still ask somebody a question that might cut their Achilles. I mean, if you're not out and about, I don't have an opportunity to find you to ask you questions. And so the Hollywood knock never really rung true with me, because I've seen lots of Detroit police chiefs over the last 20 years that you could almost never find them. When you found them, you could almost never ask them a question. When you asked them a question, you could almost never get a straight answer. And Chief Craig, for whatever any people may think about him, he may dodge some questions, but I saw him square up to more pointed questions from reporters than any chief in my experience. And in fact, I remember going to a press conference where we were doing a story about some police that I'd actually exposed who were abusing citizens. And he just said, he's like, why don't you go first? You always have the bad questions. Or you always have the sharp questions, or whatever it was.
Longest questions for sure.
Well, he knew that. That was more of a setup, but he knew that he was going to have to answer that question. So he's just like, okay, let's answer that question. We'll get to the rest of it.
Right.
Which there's something to be said for that.
Well, he's really masterful when it comes to his handling of the media. I'm sure you can appreciate that. You know, your Pulitzer Prize winning.
I've never heard that before.
Reporter.
Oh, he didn't have to bring that up. Like he brought up the press conference that I guess was set up because he had broken a story. So the police chief was there because of him. And then he was going to give him the first question. And that was all part of a 5-minute setup to begin with that Mike just said. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks for interrupting our guest, Sean.
No. I think it's great, Tracy, that you said Pulitzer so he didn't have to say it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do appreciate that. You know, I myself have a journalism background. Before I became an attorney, in another life, I worked in journalism and PR. But back to James Craig.
Thank you, Sean.
Is a master when it comes to the media. And you mentioned about prior police chiefs in Detroit. In many ways, I think James Craig is like the more successful version of Warren Evans, because he was a police chief at one point in time, and he was somebody who, never met a camera that it didn't like. I mean, you remember he did that sizzle reel for that TV show. What was it called? I think The Chief,
Yeah.
And he was
Dave Bing mad.
Yeah. Looking real
Karen
sharp
Dumas
in his shiny black leather jacket and his uni. And, but then there was that Ayanna Stanley Jones debacle.
Oh God. Yeah.
And, he had to leave. He had to step down. So, but Craig is just so masterful the way I don't think he avoids questions. He's just masterful at deflecting them. Just like when he was asked the other day about his potential candidacy, and he said, well, I've got to take care of my men and women, meaning on the force. And, he gave his retirement date, June 1st. And then he said, you'll hear from me then. But, I just thought he handled the press conference beautifully. And it was interesting to see this, relationship, if you will, between himself and Mayor Duggan, because despite him retiring and running potentially as a Republican for the governorship against the mayor's Democratic colleague, they're still good. You got the impression they're still good, at this point in time anyway.
Yeah, and throughout the marches last summer, the two of them, it was like a love fest whenever something would happen.
Real bromance.
You'd have the chief go up and say, well, the mayor's leadership has been outstanding. And then, then maybe the cops got a little rough with some folks. And the mayor would come on and say, I think the chief has done a terrific job leading our men and women and law enforcement. I mean, you could not get any space between the two of them. The mayor seemed to defer to the chief to let him run the department the way he saw fit. And I think it's open for debate whether the police needed to engage with protesters on Gratiot for that first clash. That's one of those incidents where you might have a mayor saying, boy, I don't know if our chief really handled that well. The next day, the chief decided not to interrupt the march, and things were pretty peaceful for the most part from then on out. But I do think that that you will see the mayor probably line up against the chief, and if the chief does run for governor as a Republican, you will probably see the mayor engage on that. There was some speculation early on in the Duggan administration that he really wanted Eric Jones to be the police chief. He ended up moving him over to a city department, took him out of the police department, put him in a city agency, and has since made him our fire chief or fire commissioner.
Yeah. Commissioner.
So he may be waiting in the wings. We'll see.
But you mean as a replacement for James Craig?
For Craig, yeah. There were people who thought that Duggan really recognized talented leadership in Jones and wished he could make him police chief, but he didn't want to knock Craig out. I think one of the most amazing things about the Duggan Craig relationship is when you're a mayor of a big city, and when you're a mayor, maybe even of a little city, when you're a mayor who knows politics so well, how is it that you do not want to have your own police chief? Because you got your police chief who knows when some dirt happens to call the mayor's office first. You've got your pipeline. And I don't know that ever really developed with Craig. Craig was always kind of his own man, which is extraordinary in American politics.
He was his own man. And I mean, back to this point about, the surprise about Craig running as a Republican potentially. Well, I mean, he was appointed, after all, by Kevin Orr, the emergency manager, by way of a Republican governor in the form of Rick Snyder. And I agree with you that Craig has always rolled as his own man. And in a way, I kind of picked up this bristling, that he was eager to get out from Duggan's shadow, so that he could spread his wings and perhaps, fulfill his destiny, his political destiny. And it's just going to be fascinating to see what develops within the next 12 months.
Tracy, do you think people were surprised because they see him as being from Detroit, as being black, and not thinking about him as being a police chief just by on the surface level? Like, well, he's a black guy from Detroit. Why wouldn't he be a Democrat?
Yeah, I think you hit on something there, because I think it is all about race. We are living in hyper-partisan times, when it comes to the polarity between the two parties, but also a heightened sense of, identity politics, frankly, okay? And so, I'm out on social media a lot, and I do see a lot of people saying, oh, he's a traitor, he's a sellout. Well, I'll take that back. I see some people saying that. The bottom line, though, with Craig and his crossover appeal is the fact that, he isn't for defund the police. And, frankly, there are a lot of black people that don't want to see defund the police.
They want more police.
Yeah, they don't want chaos. They don't want anarchy. They had no problem with the way Craig handled the protests last year. Black Lives Matter, Detroit will breathe. Remember that big protest because of the Hakeem Little situation? Yeah. Which, basically, Hakeem Little, the late Hakeem Little, he shot on a cop. So, what were they supposed to do?
I thought Craig handled that very well.
He handled it great.
He
released the video
right away.
Yeah. So this is my point, goes back to my point about his masterful handling of the media and optics. I think he's just great at community policing. It's going to serve him well with his campaign.
So what do you make, and ML alluded to it earlier, what do you make about people going, oh, well, he's black, so they're just going to vote for him anyway? Because there seems to be that feeling out there that black people will vote just for a black guy.
I think some people will vote for a candidate just because they're black. We've never had a black governor here in Michigan, and some people want to see that happen. And you have quite a few conservative black folk out here. And yes, listen, we saw this with John James when he ran against Gary Peters, a Democrat. There were many black people who crossed over. They crossed the party lines and they voted for John James because, after all, he's a military veteran. He put out those great commercials. He's got a beautiful family. He was criticized because of his relationship with the president. But my goodness, who, wouldn't, as a political candidate, try to tap into that connection with the POTUS? And I don't think that this is going to be an albatross around James Craig's neck in terms of Donald Trump. I just personally don't view it that way. This is what some of these pundits are out here saying that, that's just going to turn people off so much. Now, there are so many issues that Craig stands for that really resonate with people. And when you combine that with his media savvy and his charisma, I just think he's like the total package when it comes to a political candidate. And I think that Gretchen Whitmer is maybe a little worried because she's got her liabilities, to deal with.
How do you feel about the way she handled the trip to Florida?
I think that she didn't handle it properly. I don't think she has got the right people around her advising her, because I think that that's a relatable issue, going to see a parent who may be on their deathbed. I think if she had just been upfront about it, people would have understood it more. But for her to hide it when she's out here telling other people, you can't travel.
The cover up seems worse than
it does.
crime.
Exactly. And this has happened all the time with other politicians with military helicopters. And I think Chris Christie, had an issue with that too. And
he had an issue with beaches.
Yeah, he did have an issue with
He shut the
beaches.
beach down, then he and his family were there.
Yeah, I remember seeing that photo of him and the wife, sitting on a beach, and he's working on his
No one around him.
Right, yeah. But it just wasn't handled right. And, she came in and campaigned on these promises of fix the damn roads, and that never happened. And she has an opportunity.
Actually, the roads are getting fixed. I mean, I see more construction when I'm trying to get from here to there than I have in a long time.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Well, I see orange barrels, but I don't. The roads are just as bad as ever. I don't know about your neighborhood, but
94 on the east side's pretty smooth, and
So
if you go
think
up 75, they're doubling the width of it. I mean, it's now how much of that was approved under Snyder, and how much of that is.
Well, this is my point. With Biden's infrastructure bill, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for her to tie in with that. I don't see a lot of chatter about that. She has been riding on this COVID wave, her handling of it. But then, there's Charlie Duff talked about the nursing home issue. That's going to be major. Okay. I mean, it's major for
There's
Cuomo.
misinformation about that, though. What's that, Mike?
I know some nursing home workers who say that the way she handled nursing home, there was no better way to do it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's
Really? Why not send the people to the TCF center where they had the makeshift hospital? The same with Cuomo. Why didn't the people go on the ship that they had float into the harbor? I mean, they didn't even have any patients on that ship, and they didn't send anybody to the TCF center.
And why were why were they patients being moved around so much when we weren't supposed to move?
Yeah, so I don't get that.
And
I think
I'm all
it was
for
mishandled.
People can make mistakes. Just you got to own up to it and then
Absolutely.
change your behavior. And she did not seem to do that.
Absolutely.
With the nursing homes, in
I
my
agree
opinion.
with you.
Well, I read some reporting in the Free Press by Clara Hendrickson taking a look at some of the things that's been said about what she didn't do at the nursing homes, and a lot of what she's accused of being done the facts don't back up the accusations, but I'm not an expert on that subject.
You run on transparency. You need to be a little more transparent than what she has been.
Well, that's different. That's
About a lot
different than
of
a
issues.
nursing homes issue.
Well, but a lot of that's transparency too, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. And, Michigan is one of the worst states when it comes to transparency and politics. We need to have more sunshine in this state. But all of this goes to say that, I mean, this match is shaping up between Craig and Gretchen Whitmer, Big Gretch as they call her. It's very yummy to me. I mean, as somebody who's worked in politics and who just loves politics, even if you don't love politics, it's going to be fascinating to the layperson to see how this all goes down.
Now, before that election, there is the mayoral election. Is Duggan in any trouble of losing that, in your opinion?
No chance. Yeah, I think, look, he's got the power of the incumbency. The incumbent always, has a leg up on any opponent. I think that people are satisfied for the most part with the job that Duggan has done. I mean, has he been perfect? No. I mean, one of the big criticisms is the neighborhoods. People still feel like the mayor has ignored the neighborhoods, that the focus has been on downtown and midtown. But when you look at his challengers, I mean, Tom Barrow, who's running for the fifth time in 4 election cycles, and Anthony Adams, who, was in the Kwame Kilpatrick administration and who is, running this campaign that it really isn't resonating with the voters at this, stage of the game. I don't see anybody out there that could, reasonably win. No, I think Duggan's got it all day long, and, I had someone on my show, last weekend, and I asked it was Ed Sarpolis with Target Insight.
I love Ed.
I love Ed
blast.
Sarpolis,
Yeah.
with his, he's a master, with the numbers. And I asked him, I said, this.
Of course, he doesn't always pick the winners. That's one of the problems with his numbers, but
So I knew you were going there.
he can make them dance.
But he made this, I posed this question to him about this announcement of James Craig that he's, number one, retiring. And number two, he's contemplating a run for governor. And number three, as a Republican, would that in any way impact Duggan negatively? And he said, no. I mean, I think not everybody, but a lot of people have suspected that he might be a Republican. And, until he leaves, everything is going to be, very copacetic between them. But once he gets out the door, once Craig officially retires, and if he decides to run for governor, you may very well see Duggan, turn on Craig. And there are some issues that he could turn on him with, because Duggan has said that he's got, he's giving his full support behind Gretchen Whitmer. So he said no, he doesn't think that in any way, shape, or form is going to impact Duggan. So, yeah, I don't see Duggan losing at all in terms of the mayor race. And I think that he gets to be the mayor as long as he wants to be. Frankly, there's no term limits for mayor in the city of Detroit. So, maybe he might have another, beyond this election cycle, maybe another one in him.
He's going to have to deal with that new city council and that all-important District 4 race.
Yeah, you raise a good point.
I don't know how you make that District 4 race out to be.
Yeah, you may raise a good point about
it's a toss-up.
Changing city council. I mean, 4 incumbents decided not to run, so they're not going to be incumbents. And you were sitting with a candidate here, right here in the studio. And I find that you mentioned the District 4 race. That is one of the most fascinating races to me, because you have an individual who's got all this name ID. He was a former, not former, but a Pulitzer Prize.
I've heard,
a reporter. And
I heard he has an Emmy too.
You've got a judge, a retired judge.
Multiple Emmys.
Multiple Emmys too, right.
Since you mentioned it.
Multiple Emmys, and you've got a retired judge in the race, but you've also got this young hotshot black guy by the name of Tucson Knight, who's a former deputy manager, has a close relationship with Duggan, and very charismatic. I think it's a 3-man race if one of the men can manage to stay on the ballot. There's been an effort to knock retired Judge Virgil Smith off the ballot. I haven't heard anything about that lately. But this individual, Lee Reed Pratt, filed suit. She's represented by Ann Arbor attorney Andrew Patterson. They call him Drew Patterson. And, she makes an interesting point with the suit. Incidentally, the state court administrative office was sued. They call it SCAO for short. And the allegation is that, well, first of all, for people who don't know, Judge Virgil Smith is actually retired, and so he's not elected, and he's come back to my home court, Lincoln Hall of Justice, where the juvenile court sits, to help out. And this happens frequently in criminal court and over at the civil courts at KMAC. And so he's come back to help out. And so this suit says that it alleges that, quote, knowingly permitted Smith to openly run as a candidate for a non-judicial office, and Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, whom the plaintiff says has a statutory duty to direct the Detroit city clerk to address Smith's candidacy. She is in essence saying that Judge Smith's candidacy violates the state constitution that says a, quote, judge of a court of record is ineligible for an elective office other than a judicial seat during the period of his service and for 1 year thereafter. If you may recall Karen McDonald, she was a sitting judge out in Oakland County.
Yeah.
She had to step down for, a whole year before she could run against Jessica Cooper for prosecutor, which she won that race,
Yep.
sent Jessica Cooper, a Democrat, packing.
And wasn't
she primaried
Cooper
her.
a judge before she ran for prosecutor too?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, so,
But
Kim
this-
Worthy had to step down before. For the
It's
record,
different, though.
I have no interest in Judge Smith being out of the race. To me,
You know?
I'd like to see as many people on the ballot as possible.
I mean, he's a really good opponent. I mean, if he could get knocked off the ballot, I mean, wouldn't you see that as good for you and your candidacy, your campaign?
Tucson Knight's a good candidate. Letitia Johnson's a good candidate. I think there's 7 people, including myself, on the ballot right now.
Well,
so-
nobody's saying that your opponents aren't good candidates, but from where I sit, there's top 3 because a lot of people, Letitia Johnson.
And if I was running,
she's
I
not
don't think I'd want a lawsuit if I was currently running for something.
I'm running to
against
beat
me.
any and everyone in the race. If it's 6, if it's 600, if it's 1/6, which would be weird, but to me, we're doing our thing. We hope our thing is better than other people's thing. We're meeting a lot of people. We're having a lot of conversations. We're getting a lot of good feedback. So
people are receptive to you out there on the campaign trail.
yeah, people are even inviting me in their homes now, which
Really?
is kind of that wouldn't have happened a year ago when we were sort of, in the throes of the pandemic. But I think people are loosening up and they want to talk about change that they want to make. So I mean, I wish the judge a best of luck, and I hope, like all the other people running in District 4, I hope they all come 1 vote short of me.
Well, listen, I just want to, say on the record that
What a politician type of answer.
I don't.
No, I mean,
I know.
I've never been someone who
That's-
says, how I'm going to win the championship? I'm going to get all the teams disqualified before the playoffs. I mean, I want to fight. That's what it's all
Well,
about.
that's very noble of you, but I think this is just emblematic of the type of political climate that we're in now. It's election by litigation, so to speak. But I don't think that this suit has much of a leg to stand on, though, based on Judge Smith's status as really like a contractor. He's not elected. So, he doesn't have to adhere to these rules. But I think there could be an argument for separation of powers, though. How can you have someone, running for a legislative seat when they're also serving in the judiciary? But that wasn't an allegation. So I don't know, maybe they'll amend their complaint. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything about this since the news broke on April 30th.
Yeah,
Have you?
No, I'm paying attention to one campaign, and that's keeping me busy as hell. That's
Yours.
ML4 Detroit.
Right. Okay.
.com, by the way.
Yeah, but you got to, keep an eye on the competition. But you said you don't care,
Yeah, I mean, we run across each other on the trail. I mean, I haven't run across Judge Smith campaigning, but Tucson and he was driving down Outer Drive when I was cutting the grass, and he pulled over and we had a nice conversation. And I've known Letitia for years, so let's get to it and hopefully we make the best case. And if we don't, well, that's on us.
right.
But
There's other people in that race too. This young man, Ken Snap. I met him.
KenSnap.com.
Yeah.
.org.
I met
Might
him.
be .net.
But the other candidates, I mean, like I said, I think it's a 3-person race.
So you're discounting Letitia.
I just don't think
She got 43% of the vote against Andre Spivey last time.
Yeah, well, that was a different race, and you weren't in it, and Judge Smith wasn't in it, and I don't believe Tucson Knight was in it either.
No, Tucson was
So
not.
I think that, when you have such a high caliber field and you have candidates with high name ID, high profiles, somebody like a Letitia Johnson, I mean, she would really have to work, and have some commercials, some TV ads. And when I say work, I mean be out there knocking every single door, hitting doors, and she has to work to raise her profile to catch up with you guys. And I just don't see that happening.
She sent my wife a Mother's Day card. It
Aw.
didn't get there till Monday, so I beat it by a couple hours. if you count midnight as Sunday. Yeah. But before we let you go, because I know you have to get to court, speaking of high-profile candidates, you have worked before with Coleman Young Jr.
I have.
He is a candidate for Detroit City Council at large. What are his chances? Is he going to be the top vote getter? Is he going to finish second? Is he not going to make it? What's your prediction with Coleman Young returning to Detroit City Hall?
Well, I cite to Ed Sarpolis again, Target Insight, who did a survey, and on that at-large seat, and Coleman Young was coming out number one. I think, with his high profile, that high name ID, I think it served him well, even though he lost to Duggan by running that race, running that campaign. He got even more exposure. So I do think that one of those at-large seats is his all day long. Now, the big question is whether Janie Ayers is going to manage she's an incumbent, to stay on the ballot. She's got ballot issues. And if she does stay on the ballot, I think that she's going to continue to enjoy a lot of union support, which is going to help her reclinch that seat.
She's a very high quality individual. And when the pandemic hit, she and Roy McAllister, unbeknownst to anybody, were volunteering at the State Fairgrounds testing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, that speaks a lot to their commitment to public service and not to being glory hounds, which I think most council members would say, I'm going to volunteer, but can you get my good side when I volunteer?
I call them camera chasers, right? Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, I mean, in terms of the at-large seat, you do have other candidates in that race, like Nicole Small, who's a charter commissioner in leadership, and she has been very vocal. You also have Mary Waters in that race. She's a former state representative, and she has a little bit of political baggage, but, people have short memories, and they just remember her and how much they like her. She's very personable. I don't know.
Very nice woman.
Yes, very nice woman. But you have other people in that race: Jermaine Jones, Royce Kinnebrew. So we'll see. But in terms of the at-large, that's running citywide. A Coleman Young, his name's on one of those seats, and I really think Janie Ayers, if she can manage to stay on that ballot, she's going to reclinch as well. The other race that I do find interesting is District 6. That's Raquel Castaneda-Lopez's district. And, she's not seeking re-election.
She's looking to hand off.
She's looking to hand off to her endorsee, is Gabriela Santiago Romero. There's two Santiagos in that race. And so I don't know if there's going to be a little voter confusion, although one candidate is male and the other candidate is obviously female. It's interesting. The other Santiago has the same name as a baseball player, Hector Felipe Santiago, who played with the Tigers at one point in time. He's a free agent now. He played with the Twins, with the Angels.
Name recognition.
Yeah, and he uses the baseball motif on all of his campaign materials. He does, He says that people have mistaken him for the Major League
how convenient.
Baseball player.
It would be nice to have a Major League Baseball player in Detroit somewhere. I'm not sure we have any on Woodward.
Oh, that's funny. But, that District 6 race also featured David Sanchez, and individual who I've met and interviewed on Political Coffee. Very impressive. Also, Hector Santiago was very impressive as well. A graduate of the Mayor's Clean Slate program. He gets out there and he talks about justice and, how he's been able to turn his life around by getting an expungement. But David Sanchez, I don't know. He's got ballot problems too.
Yeah, I thought I read in the Detroit News that he was not certified for the ballot. That's just what I read. I don't know if that's true, but I know there were a lot of people who thought that he would be the hand-picked challenger for the people who didn't like Raquel Castaneda-Lopez. They thought Sanchez was going to be the standard bearer, but you got to get on the ballot to win. So
that's too bad for David Sanchez if that's true. That you said the Detroit News reported that he wasn't certified.
I believe I read it in the Detroit News or the Detroit Free Press. They listed the candidates who were certified, and I did not see his name there. But
Wow.
we'll double check that and let people know.
Wow. Well, I did hear from David Sanchez that he was having ballot problems, but I didn't know, what the extent of it was. The other race before I go is District 7. That's Gabe Leland's.
Yeah, what happened to that
district.
silly little bastard who was representing District 7?
Well, he got a sweetheart deal. I mean, he was it the Monday before last. He took a guilty plea for misconduct in office, and he's
Finally stepped down. Finally,
after 2 years, he was allowed to keep his almost $90,000 a year job, and he's represented by Steve Fishman, attorney Steve Fishman,
Defender of the stars.
I mean, premier
Go
criminal
behind
defense
bars.
attorney. Yes, and he hasn't been sentenced yet. He won't be sentenced until June the 7th. But there's a plea agreement. I do not believe the judge will deviate from the plea agreement, and there's no jail time.
Wow.
So he's going to turn out to be, I think, a political consultant. He's going to hang out a shingle and, make a lot of money as a political consultant because he's not going to jail.
Of course.
Well, based on his political track record and instincts, I encourage any of my opponents to hire him because that would be a real boon for my campaign. I'll tell you the one thing about his resignation, besides just how ridiculous it was, it took that long. That's the first time after he quit that I heard members of Detroit City Council and the mayor criticize him. They did not say an ill word about this man until after he had resigned. I mean, so listen, I don't want to turn this show into a campaign commercial, but I will not sit next to somebody like that and keep my mouth shut. I just can't do it.
Well, you were calling for his resignation.
Yeah.
I saw you out there in front of the Spirit of Detroit.
No, you'll sit next to
My
two
mom
people
shot
that are
that
wearing
video.
your gear, like us.
But sometimes I call you guys out. So proof point made. Thank you, sir. But well, Tracy,
So proud.
Thank you for coming and joining us. Tracy is a political consultant. She is the co-host of the Politico Coffee podcast. And for some of our listeners who maybe don't have the best judgment, she's also an attorney. So you may want to look her up. So Tracy,
thank you, ML.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here with you and your crew. And I'd love to come back and talk with you more as this James Craig story develops,
I think we definitely have to see how some of your predictions are breaking down. We definitely want to see, and Ed Sarpolis, in fairness to Ed, not many pollsters get everything right in Detroit, including everyone who anointed Mayor Freeman Hendricks. Kind of didn't work out. And of course, those people who announced were the first to herald the arrival of President Hillary Clinton. So this happens. It's a tough town to get things right on, but we'll check all those predictions. And we'll have that on the next episode or a future episode. We may have Chief Craig on the next episode.
That would be great.
The show. We'll see. He's thinking about it. But Tracy, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
Hey, if you are a guy out there, you're one of those geeks and need to get cleaned up a little bit when it comes to your hair, get back in your normal routine. Let Lady Jane's make you look and feel like a king. Right now, they have a new one in Grand Blanc on Saginaw Road, just south of Hill Road, next to AutoZone. You can let one of their talented stylists give you an award-winning haircut, invigorating shampoo, hot leather neck shave, hot towel treatment for just $16. Don't procrastinate. Keep your hair looking its best. Get to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men today on Saginaw Road. This one, just south of Hill Road, next to AutoZone. Of course, you can go online and look it all up, ladyjanes.com. It's wicked awesome.
It is very, very good. You know who's wicked awful? Todd Corser.
Oh, I know him well.
He of the false flag operation who tried to cover up an affair with another state representative by, the story is so crazy. Trying to create some narrative. He tried to create a rumor that he was gay because he thought that would help cover up his affair. And then he would denounce the allegations that he was gay because he's not gay and all this other. Anyways, it was all exposed by Chad Livingood, who at the time was working at the Detroit News in some outstanding journalism. Well, State Rep Todd Corser and his lawyer sued the Detroit News 3 years ago for defamation. They just agreed to settle a lawsuit the newspaper filed for $20,000. Their case went nowhere because it was bunk from the jump. The Detroit News said, well, you know what? We're not going to get pushed around. And good for you, Detroit News. They sued back. So the $20,000 is a pretty nice chunk of change, but it's nothing compared to the nearly $80,000 in sanctions that a judge levied against Corser and his attorney 2 years ago. In fact, it was $79,701.63. I'm not sure quite how they calculate it. Perhaps there's some interest involved. So the news said, we want that money. And turns out that the lawyer's wife may have been caught trying to shift some of those funds to keep the newspaper from getting that. So the Detroit News editor and publisher, Gary Miles, proclaimed that we would not only prevail, we would seek sanctions. Won some sanctions, and Beth LeBlanc reported that Miles also said the $20,000 settlement sends a message that frivolous lawsuits against news organizations for performing their duties under the First Amendment will not be taken lightly. So, Todd Corser, you're our Geek of the Week, but you know who's not?
Who?
Gary Miles and the Detroit News, because the $20,000 that they won, that they were entitled to, just a fraction, frankly, of what they're entitled to, that they could sorely use to support the news operation. Instead, they're going to donate that money to the Rosa Parks Scholarship.
Who gets the write-off?
So that's a good question. I don't think you can deduct charitable donations. Well, maybe a business can. At any rate, Gary Miles.
Not the important part.
Prince of the Week. Todd Corser, Geek of the Week.
The kids are soft.
I don't care for that guy.
Me neither. Too soft.
Shot to the heart, and you're too late, darling. You give
Jokes.
a bad name.
He's already air drumming. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad. Sean is not impressed, I can tell you that much. Nice to have Matt back.
Yeah, I often wonder whether the reason to drink Altus, which some people call Altus, is because of the great taste or because it's a Detroit original, a beer that went away, but like the city is coming back better than ever. Or if the reason why people like to drink Altus is because they know Matt is coming up with his comedy session. Whatever the reason, you can find Altus on your store shelves. You can find it on tap at your favorite bars. You can go online, and it's at altus.beer. That's ALTES.beer. And you can find out which stores carry it. Mark, you were wondering which major chain in Michigan just started carrying
which one?
Altus. And I'm wondering if you can guess. I think you may be
major chain Michigan. I would say Meijer.
You got on the first try.
Hey,
you got on the first try.
Yeah.
So if you are a Meijer
that,
customer,
Sean.
Nice job.
Quality Detroit beers, you can go pick up some Altus at your friendly neighborhood Meijer store.
Do it today.
So altus.beer to find out where, or just go to the friendly shelves of your local 50 acres there, the Meier's chain, as they like to be called. Now, we have not had Matt on the show for a while, and a petition drive was launched. The signatures were many. The argument was persuasive.
Keep me off.
They were delivered to us, but I decided to have him back on the show. Anyways, depending on what happens in the next 3 minutes, there's still time to sign those petitions. Matt, I don't want to say that, that your entire life is riding on this moment.
But the bar is very low.
Yeah. Let's just say, Eminem was under a lot of pressure. He had just one shot and he delivered. How are things on your side of 8 Mile?
Well, I'm excited because I can get a lot done in 3 minutes. So.
Okay, we're going to let that one go, and we're going to dive right into since we just had an attorney here, I think I have to say this, the alleged comedy portion of our show.
Well, I guess we can get started.
2:15.
Okay, so in 1838, a blacksmith named John Deere built the first steel plow that became a commercial success. And it's pretty much how John Deere became top of the line. I mean, the only thing that plowed fields any better was Burt Reynolds.
Ooh, hey. Yeah. Come on.
The pride of Lansing, Michigan. Burt.
Come on. That's a good one. Sean, nothing?
No, it's fine. It's jokes about a 70s movie star, but keep going.
Well, it's history. The historical punchline.
I know.
Yeah, it's about history.
Throw him a bone.
Too many peens. Okay, well, moving on. This week in 1940, Winston Churchill said this: "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, sweat, and tears."
It's an odd accent for Churchill.
Well, it happens. And then he spouted off the rest of the hot sauces for chimichanga night. Oh, you love it.
Sean
would like that just because it's about food.
Sean is signaling assent by
Chimichanga's
scratching his
food?
nose, or he may be calling for the double steal. I'm not sure.
Chimichanga is just a colonial appropriation of the fucking burrito. But go ahead.
And nobody was a bigger colonial power than Winston Churchill. So
That's
nice
right.
tie into
There you
history.
go.
Excellent. And funny, too.
Finally.
Not the thing Matt said, but everything after that was pretty mirthful.
All right, well, let's execute this piece.
Please.
Finally, with this week, Eddie Murphy was arrested in Santa Monica for picking up a transsexual prostitute.
This week,
Yeah. Well, this week in 97.
Oh, 1997. Okay. So this is history. Okay, good.
Yeah, he was immediately released once police realized he was just taking Dennis Rodman to get his wedding dress fitted.
I like the geopolitical flair. They brought kind of indirectly North Korea into it, unrest in Los Angeles. I'm trying.
England.
Somebody give me something.
England.
Yeah, what do we got?
You brought in England.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just
some spicy.
I'm a monkey.
sauce.
I just read what's on the page. I'm like the Ron Burgundy of the podcast.
You know, it's not funny, but I get it.
Wait, you're not writing your own stuff?
Yeah, as I recall.
Well, I write it, but then I have to read it because I don't memorize it.
Ron Burgundy was hugely successful and very popular. So where's the parallel?
I don't know, ML.
Do you comb your mustache?
I do comb my mustache.
Good.
What? What a weird question.
Ron Burgundy combed his mustache.
No, it was just a weird question.
He also had many leather-bound volumes.
Hey, everybody, come and see how good I look.
You do look very nice, Matt. It's good to have you back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Matt.
And we just added 100 signatures to that petition.
Hey, overreaction is not the best strategy when you want to look at investing, especially over the long time. Neither is burying your head in the sand and hoping it all turns out for the best. So call our buddy Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748 for rational financial advice. He's going to point you in the right direction, stocks, bonds, 401k. He's going to get you a strategy, and that's what you need when it comes to investing. So get advice. Call Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748. Let's see how long this takes, Sean.
Because he'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
What? I can't believe it was that quick.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
Oh man, am I glad we got rid of all those Facebook Live just barnacles. It's just the cool kids hanging out here.
I don't know if they're gone yet, so they probably heard all
what?
that. Yeah,
I mean, those other.
I don't know how you really feel.
Oh boy, this never happens to Charlie. Yeah, it's just the cool kids here in room 7609, the New Wave Suite, where we take new wave bands you know and love and play the songs that you really didn't hear, but that you will now know and love. Or what we do is we take a band you never heard of, we play something of theirs that's awesome, and then Sean brings up Scratch Acid. So that's kind of something you can count on every week. But this week, marking our 101st episode. Yes, we're going to find a way to celebrate every friggin' episode.
Why not? Someone needs to.
And you know why? Because people ask me, what reason do I have to celebrate our 101st episode? And I say,
you don't.
Nothing. Just like Depeche Mode, who join us with nothing. Sitting target, sitting waiting, anticipating, nothing.
By Depeche Mode.
Nothing.
Sitting target, sitting waiting, anticipating, nothing, nothing.
As we continue to celebrate our 101st anniversary,
oh my God,
Depeche Mode's 101. Depeche Mode's great, so I don't know that we need to dive into this unless Sean insists. But
they're great, and I didn't like them when I was young, but I really love them now and have for a long time.
Wait, are you serious? I don't know if I can't tell if you're joking.
No, I'm serious. They were not edgy enough. Didn't know what I was doing back then. But no, they're great. And
you're doing scratch acid back then, I think.
Oh,
and,
no.
From what I understand, some heroin and some malt duck.
Oh, no heroin.
Perhaps some snow caps.
Dude, you're up there shooting, shooting amphetamines and taking mushrooms and beans when you're living in New Hampshire. What the fuck are you talking about?
I might have shotgun a couple of beers and turned a Coke can into a multi-purpose vessel, but that's it.
Did you ever
drugs.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. Back when Coke cans made me think is, remember when cans were made out of
Where's this going?
steel, or not steel, but a much stronger material? And
Yes,
the flimsy
they
aluminum?
had a zipper seam on it because they couldn't melt it like they do with aluminum. I mean, it was.
So we used to take 3 or 4 of those and stack them on top and duct tape them and cut the tops off. So basically, you had a long tube, and then take a can opener and put a little hole in the bottom of the bottom can, and then dump lighter fluid down in it, and put a tennis ball on the top, and then light it, and it would shoot it several hundred feet in the air. But if you tried to do that now with the cans,
It'll blow out the other
they
way.
would blow out, and you'd get shrapnel everywhere. And
I thought you were describing making a bong for a second.
Yeah, no. That was just a
see
fun
that
little thing we did in a little lake in a little town in Indiana. Your people, Mark.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love Indiana. What's wrong with Indiana?
But I mean, it's fun to make things go high.
I love them. Yes.
Okay. Well,
that's the thing about having little kids now, because now I'm doing all those science projects.
But you wouldn't do something like that, right? Can you imagine the way we used to do stuff?
I
know people our age say that shit all the time.
I made a
It's
pretty
tiresome.
sweet rocket last summer and shot it and landed on our roof. I was very proud of
That is
myself.
awesome. Out of baking soda?
Yeah, of course. The girls were very impressed. But
awesome.
if I didn't have kids, it would be really weird if I just did that on my own.
Not necessarily. You just
yeah,
having a nostalgia.
It'd be weird if I guess.
Hey, I'm going to take a
single guy made
Saturday
a
and be a little nostalgic. That'd be fun.
It was a blast. Literally. Sorry, ML.
No, that's okay.
Back to you.
Sean,
Go ahead. Get back to politics.
Sean, like Depeche Mode, reminds us life is full of surprises.
Huh?
That's a lyric from Nothing.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. What were we talking about anyway?
Another Sean inspired lyric. What am I trying to do? What am I trying to say? I'm not trying to tell you anything you didn't know when you woke up today.
Oh, wow. It's deep.
That's what you're trying to do, right?
No, I'm trying to tell you
You're
something.
trying to repackage the pablum.
I'm trying to tell you
and
something
make people
you
think it's
didn't know
something new.
when you woke up today.
That's what you're saying?
But I am
That's what you're expert
I am a
in?
sitting target, sitting praying.
You're a sitting target.
Sean is saying
It's all about you. Everybody's after
Nothing.
you.
Always.
It's a conspiracy against the great ML.
Nothing. Oh no.
Mark's checked out. He's over there texting.
Nothing. Oh no. Nothing. Oh no.
Either Drew upstairs saying, "Help get me out of this podcast." 101 is way far enough.
I was texting Zoovs.
Okay.
Zoovs. Zoovs.
Voice in the sky.
I'm waiting to get Zoovs' order on one of those sweet Soul of Detroit commemorative bikes that are available at the
That's
Drew
awesome.
Bike store now.
What are we doing today?
So we're talking a little bit about David Hall. Luke Nowacki can help
Okay.
you save money for the long term. He can
There
help
you
you
go.
build wealth. Well, if you need to save some money right now, David Hall is your man. David Hall is he's financing deals. He's refinancing as well, and he can get you rates in the twos. So call today and find out how much a refi can save you every single month. Click the link on our website to get started, or call my man Dan Morrison at 248-308-5000. That's 248-308-5000. Make sure to tell him ML sent you, because Dan is busy. But when he gets your call and he says, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't have time for this. I can't take this call. I was gonna give this call to Bentley. But you know what? ML sent you. Let me drop everything and let me get you a good deal." So give Dan a call at 248-308-5000. Or you can link to him from our website. Hall Financial, they're taking care of folks here on the Red Shovel Network. They've taken care of me on deals I've done with them, and I think that they'll look after your interests as well. NMLS 146743. I thought Sean was going to jump in there on the end.
No.
Never.
I was just
He's not
going
gonna help you.
There's no rescue.
He's not here to
I'm
help
just out
you.
here.
Of course, I'm here to help him. The ads have been the best part of the show today, but no, of course I've been here.
Sean's a guy who, when you're hanging on a cliff, he reaches his hand up and he does the handshake thing.
Yeah.
Where he brushes the side of his hair.
Kicks a little dirt and rocks.
That really
towards you.
sounds like me.
And
doesn't
then
it?
as you're falling, well, not the hair part, but as you're falling, just like, Sean!
That really sounds like me. Yeah.
Damn you!
God, this show today. What time
Then
is
he
it,
hit some
Mark?
rocks. Ah,
Can you edit that out?
No.
Sean!
Maybe I'll double it.
Any last words? Get
Are you channeling Charlie there?
Sean.
Is that what you're doing?
Charlie
Trying to
has
bring some
never.
energy?
Sean has Charlie's never fallen off a steep precipice.
Nobody brings energy to the show, so I thought maybe you're trying to channel it.
I feel like I'm doing a show with a program director, like in the room at the same time.
And
you know what I mean?
That station is
everything is. I'm getting immediate feedback from Sean on everything we're doing.
That's right. It's W off. The numbers 666.6 FM. Oh no, that'd be AM, right? Yeah. So, anyways, sorry, very low on the AM dial. Anyways, we love to hear from you in room 7609. Please make your nominations. In fact, I got a great nomination not too long ago that I was thinking of playing, but I'm still struggling because the band who produced it is known as sort of the preeminent power pop band, but the song has just such great new wave vibes that I may bring it forward next week just to have a lively discussion over whether it's meritorious or not. But anyway, to find out who that is, you have to come back to room 7609 next week. And if you're going to get into room 7609, one of the best ways to do it is by using your key, which could be attached to one of our outstanding room 7609 keychains. As Sean was mentioning the other day, we have some fantastic bikes. Yes, limited edition. There's pre-sale only. If you want one of our Solar Detroit bikes, and if you want to take a look at it, you have to go to drewandmikestore.com. If you want one, you have to get your order in by the end of May. And this bike, built in Detroit by Detroiters, is available for pickup. If you pick it up, Zach Pashik, who was on the show last week, the president and founder of Detroit Bikes, will give you a tour of the factory. And if you want it delivered, I think we might have a deal where I would deliver it. But that might cost you a little extra.
How far will you go?
It might cost you a couple beers. Depends how many Altus are waiting in your fridge.
Well, let's say Sean ordered one from his house. Would you deliver it all the way there?
I probably would. I think I would, because I want to check out that sweet bunker that Sean was broadcasting from around this time.
What if I lived in Kalamazoo?
Yeah, I think Kalamazoo's a cool town. I might make it out.
It is. I like Kalamazoo.
Yeah. Dip my toes in
Traverse
the Kalamazoo
City
River. Traverse, for sure. But we have to pick the date. But I'd love to throw it on the back of Thule, drive it up to Traverse City.
Bozeman, Montana.
Bozeman, Montana.
Try to see how far he'll travel.
I had family. It's funny you picked Bozeman. My wife was in Bozeman a few weeks ago.
I'll have Sean bring it. Sean will bring it with him on his next
family
visit
out there
to family in Bozeman, Montana. Yeah. So there you go, smart guy.
Should we go to the portion of you tell us what you're working on? You go, I don't know, nothing.
Yeah, nothing really. The Pistons, the draft. I need, some time off, hopefully soon.
You had a good column on Miguel Cabrera.
Thank you.
What a disaster he is.
Thank you. I've actually been bouncing around. I wrote about the Wings and Iserman, and
I got to tell you,
the Verona trade. I wrote about Alavila and some of the struggles with the Tigers.
It's really tough to write about these teams right now.
Actually, people have been reading because it's so bad, and I was surprised at how many people read about the Tigers and Alavila. But it's kind of a hate read thing.
Yeah, of course.
I think that Miguel Cabrera is going to have a dramatic turnaround the minute that his custom made just for him Winnie the Pooh Detroit bikes are delivered.
You might be right.
I think that is going to give him so much joy. He's going to recapture some of that playfulness that made him such a wonder.
They should allow him to ride it around the bike paths because it'd be a hell of a lot faster than he is running. If he ever gets a chance to run around them.
He could challenge the guys in the sausage race in the cars.
There you go.
You know, it was fun to work on that column. And for real quick, for most of you who probably didn't read it, Miguel Cabrera passed Babe Ruth on the all-time hit list last Friday, right, Mark? I think that was. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of went back and went down the memory lane for some of his greatest hits, so to speak, no pun intended. And you just forget how, not just dominant he was, but just how sort of different he was, the things he could do at the plate, and then how we would sort of retell the stories, and then how much, even more than that, we look forward to him. The minute he got into the on-deck circle, like, oh, Cabrera's about it. Let's let you stop what you're doing to watch. And
there was a lot of talk about him being the best right-handed hitter ever in the history of the game.
Leland told me one time, and I don't remember, when he was in that 2-3 year stretch where he was putting up just outrageous numbers, that he had never, in his 50 years of baseball, he had never seen a better hitter.
Yeah.
right-handed hitter.
Unfortunately, so much of sports is what have you done for me lately? What are you doing for me right now? And he is utter garbage, and that contract is an albatross.
It is. But there, and I mentioned this in the column real quickly, Mark. There was an at bat against Phil Hughes, who was a pitcher for the Yankees at the time, and they were in New York, and I was there covering the team, and Hughes threw him an inside fastball, almost at his knees, so far inside that it was clearly a ball, right? And he
can turn on it.
But first he backs up in his stance, and then he pulls his hands inward, and then he turns on it and rips it down the left field line for a home run. And I remember in the clubhouse afterwards, Anibal Sanchez, who I think pitched that day, and Torrey Hunter was the outfielder. Like that was, they couldn't believe it. You just don't see. You couldn't see. He could take that same pitch, by the way, and muscle it the opposite way when it was inside. Which I don't want to get into the physics of all that. And plus I'm an idiot, but.
He was great.
It's just the stuff he did hadn't been done in that way. And not only that, now we haven't had an athlete in this city for a while do stuff where you say, wow, did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed effortless to him. And unlike a Albert Pujols or a Mark McGwire, where you could tell that they were an extraordinary physical specimen, he just looked like sort of a tall dude who went up to bat.
He was a 6'4". He is a 6'4", 250-pound guy with the feet of a 150-pound guy, right? I mean, just watch him walk and move, and how the balance and how nimble he is for that. It's just God-given gifts, right? I mean, he took the plate like a little infielder with those quick hands and that quick at bat, but then he had the power.
Yeah, to put it in the camera well in center field.
Oh, my God, right? And so, that combination is like Tony Gwynn with power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And now he's gets $30 million a year, and everyone hates him.
Yeah.
So
that's just how it works in sports.
Two things struck me about Sean's piece. Number one was that Babe Ruth didn't reach 3,000 hits. Doesn't that seem amazing?
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
talking about perhaps the greatest hit of all time. He didn't reach 300. Now, I know he spent a couple of years pitching in Boston, but still.
Right.
And the other one was all the poor verb choices.
Thank you.
It's a lot of passive voicing and stuff. But yeah, but otherwise, I thought it was very good. It was very good.
Thank you. That's
always an editor.
It was well done.
Except for a podcast.
Writing, but that's
yeah. So anyway,
always an editor for the written word.
I just wanted to answer a couple questions that came up in last week's show that I was not able to answer that I feel very bad about.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do.
Mark, you had asked me what the name of that really cool music that we had commissioned. By Max Prokop, and it did have a name, and I totally missed it. It's Buzz Me Cool.
Where is that? Can we hear that again?
I think you should write some lyrics for it, Sean.
So, sitting target.
Oh, can we please hear the bass, please? There you go. That was enough. Okay, thank you.
So, Max offered to put some music together for us and I said, that'd be great. And he said, what are you looking for? And I said, I'm looking for something like Jamiroquai meets the Barney Miller theme song.
Well, he nailed it.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That big
I don't believe you said that, but he nailed it.
I did. I have the email. In fact,
you really?
When I looked back and I saw that, I said, "Well, I really am a good writer."
Why did you ask for that combination?
Because
you could have just said Ocean's 11, right? I mean,
there you go. Yeah.
I like Jamiroquai. I never saw that, but or the original.
Yeah, because it's too new.
I didn't see the original either. I anticipated that burn. Block defended.
All right, fine.
Ball's going back the other way. Slam dunk. But yeah, so Max may be on a future show.
Because it was American made? Is that why you didn't see the original?
I just don't. I'm not a big Sinatra.
This is great, by the way. We've got some energy in the show. It only took an hour and a half. That's awesome.
We left a big window for you.
Speak for yourself, man.
Mark wasn't his usual self today. He has a lot more questions.
He was very erudite. On
yeah, he was. But yeah, you did talk a lot though.
Trying to keep the show on track. That's why.
Thank you.
Wait for the horns. Here we go. And now
this is absolutely Brad Pitt walking to see Andy Garcia in Bellagio, isn't it?
Oh, so you're calling Max a musical plagiarist?
No, it's just evocative of that. It's evocative of a different era too.
Why not
right? It's a
Ocean's
Rat
8?
Pack.
You misogynist.
Because
the Rat Pack.
Max is a lawyer, so he could sue you for that.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, we may be having Max on a future show to debut some new music.
That'd be great.
As you may know, he's a bass player for Smiths Unite. He's also in Shasta Fox and the King's English, so Max has a lot of tunes in his kit. So we may debut one in a future show. Just want to encourage you, if you'd like to support this show, you can send a donation via mlsoulofdetroit.com. There's a button to donate. If you want to send us a few coins via PayPal, include a message. We'll be happy to mention that on the show. And if you want to follow my campaign, we just launched a new initiative called 5 for 4, where we encourage people to donate just $5 because we're trying to remind people that politics isn't about big bucks, it's about people. So if you want to affect change in Detroit, you can do it for as little as $5. So go to the website, give us a fin. We'd love to have it. If you're prepared to donate $2,000, we won't turn you away either. But maybe we will. I guess that was the out cue.
That was really nice. Hey, by the way, real quickly,
well timed.
Sorry for this interlude.
No, you're not.
Brief.
Go ahead.
We kind of dropped the ball earlier.
What did we do?
This motherfucker used the word avuncular.
I knew this was coming. Cyrus, take us out. I was just waiting.
I kept thinking, But we had a really kind, lovely guest, and I didn't want to go down that road when he mentioned that. But do you remember this, Mark?
Sorry,
I remember when he said it, yeah.
You didn't make a peep.
He was looking it up.
He was in his zone.
Yeah.
Did
you hear that? Yeah.
Admittedly.
Yeah, the guy that went to Michigan and Catholic school.
I don't know anything about words.
Learned nothing.
Well, I guess you're not an elitist at all. So
No,
if
I'm
you
just
go to
saying
Michigan and
he's getting
Catholic,
whacked with
then
a
I guess you're
ruler
above
because
everybody.
he's not using a glossary, right? So come on, he knows how to.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of corporal punishment in Ann Arbor, usually administered by the Spartans in the big house.
Yeah, my wife's not a fan
Pregnant
of
pause.
those nuns back then. Maybe Mark was, but
Wait, don't use the Matt Jennings drops on me. That's very hurtful.
That's a lame joke. What do you want?
That's very hurtful. By the way, the petition is now up to 1,000 signatures. You can sign it online.
Where is Matt anyway?
I don't know. I just potted him up. I don't know if he's I don't know where he is anymore.
I think he was probably laying down some beats with his own drums.
I think he's plowing some fields
to buzz me cool. So anyway,
what? I do like the air drumming, but our audience doesn't see that, do they?
No, that's why I mentioned. That's why I mentioned it.
No. Matt is Matt is like your childhood porn collection. We keep him hidden till no one's watching.
I didn't have one of those.
Oh, you didn't? They didn't have one at where? Indiana, Illinois,
or a
Texas,
catalog.
Japan, or
that might have been one of the creepiest things you've ever said.
Excuse me. No,
proud of yourself.
I'm not. That was just a joke.
It's funny. No, it's bad.
That was just a bad joke.
That was great.
I like the mature over 40, kind of thing when I was 13.
What? Cougar? Okay. Well,
Once again, another thing I didn't expect to hear today.
I don't know why we don't just end this, but I guess when they take you off the ventilator, they don't put a pillow over your face. So we're just going to sit here and wheeze until somebody codes us, and then hopefully...
I mean, you guys probably like Samantha on Bewitched. I liked Endora. we all have our own thing. Can we just say that?
I always had you for Mrs. Kravitz.
Oh, no. Endora, man. It's the flowing robes.
Agnes Moorehead was pretty cool, though.
No, she was very cool.
Yeah. So you're not really conceding much there. And back in the day, Agnes Moorehead, va-va-voom.
But when Bewitched, she was probably in her early 70s, right? 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teenager, roaming around the world in a military base.
What are we doing? This is prolonging the agony. Maybe after the last horn riff, then.
Just remember, it goes in your words, so.
Okay.
All right. That's enough.
Shovel Network.
That's enough.
Yeah, baby. I feel like I'm in the worst episode of Peter Gunn ever. Charlie LaDuff's No BS News Hour, making news like no one else right here on the Red Shovel Network. And of course, there's the Drew and Mike podcast, your friendly daily dose of everything that matters. You can only get it here on the Red Shovel Network. One more horn riff. Maybe 2 more.
Okay.
Max and Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
And the podcast episode.
It's called 101. Why?
Well, it was in fact the 101st
episode.
Oh, really?
We were hoping it to be 100, but
oh, no,
somewhere another one got added.
I think 101 actually has a bit more ring to it.
Yeah.